Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Cool Careers and How You Got Them. I'm your host, Zain Raza, and here today I'm joined by Mrs. Engie Hassan. Mrs. Hassan, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
All right, so let's just start off very basic. What is your job? What is your title?
I founded a company called Engie Style
Hmm.
and in 2010, and it is a fashion styling personal shopping business that integrated the past year and pivoted to more other areas of marketing and management and creative directing my clients. And my
Wow.
clients range from celebrities to everyday women and men to CEOs to college kids. So
Hmm.
pretty much if there's anything I can style, I'll do it. And yeah, now we're just kind of like styling people with more of a purpose in life and hoping to come out with a couple products coming out this early fall.
Wow. Okay. Well, as you know, my podcast is directed at teenagers who don't might not know what they want to be when they grow up. So when you were a teenager, what were you like?
When I was a teenager, I was a very complex kid. I lived in Denville, New Jersey,
Hmm.
and I moved there when I was in third grade. So it was like I went to a private school before that. And what happened was just kind of like it was different kids from all over different towns. And it was like a big year, different people came. But for me, it was like when I was a teenager, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do and not career wise, just like who I wanted to be. I'm Egyptian, so my culture played a big effect, but I didn't know if I wanted to show that yet. I was I was into sports. I played basketball, I ran cross country. So I kind of wanted to do everything, you know?
Hmm.
I had parents who both worked, so I got to see the business side very young, and I knew I loved that. And I had older brothers that were completely different. So that really helped me because I just saw and got inspired through them. So as a teenager, I would say I had a couple of different phases. I had a phase where I was really into, I wanted to be a lawyer at one point.
Hmm.
And when I was in high school, I saw this program that they had where you could go and be on a case and observe it and go to Trenton, but you had to like write about the kind of like they had like a test case. And I did really well. So I got to go see the whole case, and that made me really love it. My mom actually is a lawyer. She's not a practicing lawyer anymore, but she was. And I think that's why I was always excited to learn more about being a lawyer and wanting to kind of be a lawyer. And then I started to love business because there was like different different parts of school where like you got to learn areas of business from classes I took. And I had it in me, but I didn't think like I could ever really do what I've accomplished. I never thought in a million years like I would do my own company. I didn't think that far. I did like to get involved with other students. I was secretary for our class, junior year and senior year, and I loved to dance. I was a dancer, and I think like for me it was like I was part of many different cliques, and yeah, so I just kind of and then I fell in love with arts through my father, but I just kind of like I didn't think it was really like a profession in any
Hmm.
way. Like, you know, you hear about these professions. You know, I graduated in high school in 2002. It was a very long time ago. But it was kind of like we didn't have the resources, I feel, as much as we have more today to like really dissect what you want. It was like through mentors or other people, which I was very lucky to speak up and talk to teachers. And so pretty much for me in high school, I was kind of a mix of different people. You know, I was
Hmm.
into sports and arts and just kind of like living life.
And you had a couple of ideas of what you wanted to be, right? Lawyer
Yes,
or in business, but did you ever foresee yourself in the current position you have?
not really. I love fashion. I wanted to do something in fashion, but that didn't come till like I started taking, so I've started to like fashion, seeing what different reasons, like my mom, you know, seeing what she was doing in fashion. She wasn't in the fashion industry at large at all. She was kind of like exporting things to Saudi Arabia and different countries, but it wasn't like something that you're like, oh, I want to be in fashion to do exporting. It was more kind of like, oh, so, you know, it's very hard to find wardrobe. I see my mother struggling with it and taking all our hours every weekend. Maybe there
Hmm.
is a way behind this. I was really into tech, and that was like a big part of the world evolving that at that time. So it was like, everyone was like, you got to be in IT. And third grade, I had like the student fair, I created something kind of like the Nano. It was an MP3 player. So, my family wanted me to, they were very encouraging that I should do something in the tech world. But then when I was taking a lot of those kind of classes, it just didn't like, I got bored. I didn't really like pay attention. I paid attention because I wanted to pass the classes, but it wasn't something that made me like have passion and excitement and also think like I'm doing something that I want to do every single day and love
Hmm.
it. And I saw like that through, my parents. So like also a lot for me was like what they wanted me to do or what they thought I should explore. And they like kind of were like, you should just either go to pharmacy school or, do something in IT. And pharmacy school in the medical field for me was not something I wanted to do. My eldest brother was going to medical school already. So for me, it was like, no, it was just for me, not that's something I had substance. Like it wasn't something I enjoyed. Yeah, and then I kind of didn't think of this at all until I started taking Saturday classes at FIT. Like I told my dad I was interested in arts. We went and got some proper supplies. He he had a business, and in the business there was an employee whose mother worked for Oscar de la Renta, and he's a fashion designer. So she was one of his right hand women, and my dad told her like my daughter wants to get into fashion. What do you think about that? Like, what's her steps? So my dad made me have lunch with her on Saturday. And it was like a 4 hour lunch. And then she was just kind of like telling me like she was at Oscar de la Renta for a while, that now she worked at Victoria's Secret. She did like the runway pieces for the shows. And she was like, kind of like it communicated me a lot about the design aspect of being a designer. We thought designers were like just the face of the company. We didn't know that there's like a whole team of people actually making the clothes and designing it. And then
Hmm.
she gave me some things to like, educate myself in it, like tell me to read Women's Wear Daily, tell me to keep up. I read magazines like the Vogues and everything, but she was saying like understand also the bigger aspect of fashion, like learn every part of fashion, which is also what my dad told me. If you love fashion and want to be a part of it and be in that career, learn every area.
Hmm.
So then I wanted to apply to FIT, and I applied to FIT for undergrad in my junior year. It's like actually the only school I really applied to.
And you went there?
Yeah, so I got accepted, but 9/11 happened my senior year of high school, and then my parents were kind of nervous for me to be in the city. So they didn't want me to go for the first year, unfortunately, and they just got really scared. So they told me, because I'm Muslim, so they told me to wait another year and then see how the world is, and it's meant to be, it's meant to be. So that kind of made me feel like maybe that this isn't my journey anymore. Like, if that already was like a sign. I mean, what else more could be a sign? Like you can't go because all this stuff is happening.
Hmm.
So I did go because that was like like it was my dream, and I was like, for me, it's also so someone holds says like you can't do it, or I don't think it's going to be good for you to do it, or here's a sign. It makes me want to work harder to prove like no, I think that doesn't is a challenge, it's a hurdle, doesn't mean that doesn't really give enough to say like no, quit your dream. And then I went there for the rest of the undergrad. I transferred.
Oh, okay. And how effective was what you learned at FIT? How much do you use that now in your career?
For me, I think FIT was a great base because I went to the city. So you had a city as already just going to New York City, coming from the suburbs of Denville was like a different world. You had students from all over the world there. So I got to learn Japanese culture, the Korean culture. I was already Middle Eastern. I learned so much like just about fashion and culture and getting inspired by other students. And that alone was amazing through the school. And then just like the teachers were very knowledgeable. Some of them worked are still in the industry, which was great. But for me, I think FIT was the stepping stone, was like being in New York and feeling like the streets. And I would just kind of like, they would have this list of like designers that needed help for the weekend, or they would have like during fashion week, like, be a dresser for fashion week for Marc Jacobs. So I really took advantage of everything that the school offered that wasn't just on campus. It was kind of like finding out other things that were within the field. And then my internship was probably like what changed my whole life was like I got so like pretty much I transferred to FIT, took those classes, and then I started to love to be a buyer over a designer. And I kind of was like, go to FIT, intern at like Ralph Lauren, become a buyer, and then your life's set. And then I met somebody there, a student. She became my best friend, and she told me about styling, and that's what
Hmm.
she went to school for. Like, there wasn't styling classes then yet, but that's what her dream was. She was like, I want to be the next Rachel Zoe. I didn't even know who that was yet. And then she got me some books and explained to me why. Like, she loved it. And for me, it was like, I had this idea that this is the path I'm taking. I'm going to become a buyer. There's no other path. This is just like, don't get off the path. I went and we were trying to get internships for our senior year and then I met an editor randomly at Staples, and I was printing my resumes and my portfolio. And, she, admired the way I was dressed and my accessories and asked me like what I was doing. We had a small conversation. Little did I know she was like a huge editor. And she was telling me like, oh, if you need an internship, why don't you intern at Vogue? And like it sounds really like, who are you to turn down such a big magazine? But for me, it was again about like staying on the path. Because like
Hmm.
I was taught in high school, like if you want to become a doctor, you go to medical school. If you want to become an IT, you go to take these courses. If you want to be an accountant, take these courses. So for me, it was like I was told by mentors, if you want to be a buyer, there's one step, two step, three step. So why am I gonna like, take that? So I told her, oh, I don't really think that would work for me. I want to become a buyer. And then she's like, an internship, work interning at Vogue will open any door for you. And then I was like, okay, maybe I will. And then I asked her, could I, be in the accessories department? Because I loved accessories. So I got the internship. And to make it like, just comical, is that my friend and I, our paths changed. She became the buyer who wanted to be the stylist. And her whole life was like, I want to be a stylist. And I'm the one that became the stylist instead. And like
Hmm.
trying to be like the next Rachel Zoe.
Hmm.
So yeah.
How different is it being a buyer compared to being a stylist?
So a fashion stylist is like, you're very creative, and there's different sectors in being a stylist. So you can either be, so I do film, so that's called costume design, but you're still doing styling, meaning like you're dressing the actors and actresses for the film. Um, and celebrities, you're styling them for the red carpets, advertisements, you're styling the models. So that kind of like the stylists connect with designers, get their merchandise, and put it on the models and make a look and inspire the masses. A buyer already knows what's out. You're already seeing the clothes on the runway, and then they have to know what their consumer is purchasing from their store or boutique, and they have to buy the appropriate clothing that is going to sell in like a Nordstrom. So if you're a buyer for a department store, you kind of like know the colorways, which designers you're going to buy, and then when you're going to the shows, you kind of like you pretty much do the buy then.
Hmm.
And then if you have a boutique, it's kind of like more because you're curating the boutique that works for the consumer that's going to come in. And then if you're creating a line, sometimes you're like some kind of companies that are lease departments. You could be a buyer under these companies, and like they're creating like say, like, I'll give you an example, like say like a Rachel Zoe's company is leased to a company, this firm, this company, they will like hire a buyer to like they buy stuff, like buyer creative director, buy clothes that they want to mimic and design the same way. And then they take those. So there's different definitions for each. But pretty much when you're a buyer, you're buying for your store. And when you're a stylist, you're actually taking the clothes and putting looks together and
Hmm.
making someone look from head to toe. And it's very detailed sometimes too.
Okay, awesome. So obviously, I think you have a very cool career, but in
Thank you.
your opinion, what makes your career cool?
The definition of cool to me is that I love my job every day. So like I feel every time, there's a lot of hurdles, and anytime you you like feel like, is this the right way? Because it's yourself, pretty much you're running your own business all the time. What's cool about it is that like I get this like I feel very lucky and happy because I get to experience so much different things, where I'm experiencing meeting new people, I'm experiencing working in different atmospheres. So like I could be doing a film that's created and staying out there forever, or I could be doing an advertisement. So for me, I feel like it's cool because I get to experience many different things all the time. And then also I think it's really cool that like you have somewhat of a power to inspire people's purchasing. Like you have this like idea of like, if you keep showing it, especially with social media now, if you keep showing certain styles on your clients or certain, jewelry on yourself, people might start wanting to buy that, and it becomes a trend. And I think
Hmm.
that's kind of cool that you might have that power to do that.
No, you want the power to be a trendsetter. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any, like, can you identify for us some key traits that you have that really allow you to be successful in your job?
I mean, I think for me is that organization is very important because there's
Hmm.
so many moving parts. I think patience because I work with many different personalities, and I think also when you're a stylist or you're doing a service, you have to really understand that you have to keep the consumer happy. Like in the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I wanted a certain designer on them in a certain color. Is my customer happy? And I think it's really important that we remember that like it doesn't matter what field you're in, but you always have to make sure that what you're executing is the person who's receiving that is happy and that you accomplished what was supposed to be accomplished. I also think it's really important to for me it's like I have a drive that I feel like I just even when I want to give up, I just kind of like no, I have to keep going because I have this like self-satisfied like I want to be successful and I want to keep going and how you major like how you decide what success is up to you. But for me, it's kind of like that I don't give up. And then I just kind of like continue pursuing or pivoting to stay successful with the company.
Hmm. Can you take us through a regular day at work?
Yeah. Um, so well now I have a kid, so my schedule's kind of changed, but usually it's I wake up at 5 a.m. and I check all my emails because I do a lot of international work.
Hmm.
So like I'm pulling from designers or I have calls with designers. So their day is a lot earlier. And then if I have those calls, I get those done from 5 to 8. Then I'll take then from like 8 to 10, I'm kind of like just going through and getting like my social media stuff ready and packing for a shoot if I'm on a shoot. Usually I'm either shopping or fitting clients till 6 o'clock. And then if I have an event, I go to events at night, or then I just like get ready, make my to-do list and get ready and close out jobs at night. Close out jobs meaning like get ready to make sure everything came back from a customer or my client, excuse me, and then just get every single thing ready. So
And will a client come and approach you and tell you, like, I need help with my wardrobe? Is that how it works, or do you approach them?
it's happened both ways. So sometimes it's word of mouth has been really beneficial to me. I
Hmm.
started a business and it was like I had the opportunity through the Plaza Hotel to get referred from them to royal clients. And then that really like set me and put me on the map kind of. And then it was just kind of like word of mouth, like someone was introducing me to somebody else. But people have like reached when they find out, they'll reach out through like social media. But I actually believe like I do pursue if I want somebody or like for Priyanka, like I went to an event knowing like that she'll be there. And then I went with my manager and I was just like, we have to I did whatever I could to like have an honest and organic conversation with her and just like kind of like hang out. And then I saw that her manager was there and I talked to her a little bit and then I got her information. And the next day I emailed them to work with her and I
Hmm.
pitched myself. And I do that a lot. Like I pitch myself like because I want certain people. I'm like, I think I'm ready to pitch myself. Like, what am I going to lose? And I think it's important to do that. And then I also get referred by people as well. So it's kind of like both.
So Priyanka Chopra.
Yeah, Priyanka Chopra. I saw her and I knew she was going to be at an event.
Hmm.
So I wanted her. This was like before Nick Jonas, before she got married and everything. It was years ago. And then I worked with her because I reached out to her manager, and then we worked together for 2 years. So
Hmm.
2013 to 2015.
Most of your clients, are they that high profile, or do they range?
No, they completely range. I have people who are just, you could be like again, a student who is
Hmm.
getting ready to go to college and wants to, go to certain, they want to look a certain way because they're going to a whole different state or they're going to be doing internships. Um, I have people who are going to their first career job. And then I have like CEOs for companies. So it's all a completely different range.
How many hours would you say you work a week?
I think like when you own your own business, there isn't really like a number. It's
Hmm.
just kind of like So I'm always kind of like on call. So pretty much in my industry, there's high peak and low peak. So when it's like Oscar season, and so we call it red carpet season and fashion week. So pretty much like the last 2 weeks of January until end of March is like you're pretty much working around the clock until you're sleeping, because and even then sometimes I'm checking in to with clients if I'm again like overseas stuff. So because I'm trying to build my company continuously, that I'm always like doing the next thing. Like I'm trying to like get ready for the next um time. So the next time frame would be like May, June, and July. So then like when I have the slower time, like now in April, I would be, doing a normal hours. So I technically work every day, but it's
Hmm.
not every day all day. But if you run your own business, you kind of are like when I go to even like a wedding, I'll like be networking, like just it is. It's kind of like how you work and live your life that way.
And you kind of have a hybrid situation where you're working sometimes like on emails, phone calls, but then also you have to be in person at an event.
Yeah. Or like in person fitting the client or with them on their event on the red
Hmm.
carpet, or you're on the photo shoot. Sometimes shoots take a week. It takes like a week of prep. So you're getting everything ready for the shoot and fittings. Then you're on the set for the advertisement, which could take up to 5, 6 days. And then the post production, getting the team ready to do everything, to
Hmm.
return everything and get everything settled. So sometimes like one advertisement could take up to 2 to 3 weeks.
And do you have flexibility in your work schedule? Like if something comes up, you can kind of rework what you have going on?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like so sometimes you don't excuse me when you're doing advertisements, you don't have a lot because you don't get to unless you're saying no, I don't want to do it. But when I do a lot of clients that are personal styling, I look at the calendar. So
Hmm.
even if like the Oscars are like in March, I start talking to my clients once the nominations come out. So I like, 6 weeks in advance. And then if we have a certain vision for some events, we will like start prepping it early and fitting them early, because I already know how many clients I'll have at the same time. So I'm not like overbooking myself and trying to like maneuver a way that I have a healthy balance for life.
Hmm.
So, and that's all with organization. So like I try to like with certain clients, they also don't need me to go with them. And when I organize everything and map it out, that's the way. Now also the company's grown. I have someone with me full time. They can also go with them to the red carpet events. They can do the returns. They keep like in-house organized, so I can have more time to just either take other areas of adding to the business. Like I'm hoping to add a product to the business. We've been offered a couple opportunities to collaborate with different designers. So we're in the middle of that right now. So I could, hopefully add more components to this company.
Wow. So, well, we talked a lot about what you do while you're working, but how do you use your free time?
So I love to spend time with my daughter. She's 2.5,
Hmm.
and we like to go to the park, or she loves to paint. So we paint a lot together. We dance together. I spend a lot of time with my husband too. Like we just hang out as a family. Like, it again, it's either we could travel or we have friends over, and he loves to watch the boxing fights, so we do that on Saturday night. But just kind of like spending time with family and friends and just have a good time. I do like to go to the museums, but after during COVID and after the pandemic, a lot of things like you couldn't go just everywhere anywhere. And then with my daughter, it wasn't like just safe to always be out and about. But now like I'm gonna go back to like hiking every week. Um, Trying to take like new different classes in the arts world, like pottery class or making candles. So I do like to keep myself really busy, and then hoping to get back to the gym like 5 to 6 days a week for my mental state.
That's great. Now, when you're working with a client, do you have a team that you bring with you and you all work together, or is it just you?
Mostly, I have at least one assistant on every job now.
Hmm.
That assistant has worked with me from the beginning. So she worked with me full time until for a couple of years, and then she went on her own. And now she'll come on anything that has because she does alterations. She's a tailor too, so it's kind of like she's assisting plus doing alterations, and we keep it in house to just kind of like it's less running around, less work, and then it's more profitable for her as well. So I at
Hmm.
least try to bring yeah, for each job at least have one assistant. Sometimes it depends on the client. Some clients like things to just be with me and they just don't want all the chaos. So what we do is like they come, most clients come, 90% of my clients come to my office. So I'll have an assistant to prep everything with me, to get everything laid out, get everything organized. And then for the conversation with the clients and to go through the boards and the look, sometimes I'll just do it on my own. And then an assistant can come towards the end to start like wrapping up the job, packing what's going to work. Sometimes they'll come just to take photos of the client while I'm communicating things with the client. So it depends on which project I'm doing. And but mostly, yes. I'm hoping to even like have more people than one, just so we finish even faster, or just have more jobs. Sometimes you're getting double booked. So like I'll have an
Hmm.
assistant on another job, getting everything prepped and ready while I'm with somebody fitting them, and then I'll go to the next fitting, and it's just kind of like a domino effect. And then she'll go to the either go back to where I was started, take everything that needs to like be returned or picked up.
Oh, so how big is your team that you manage?
I usually have at least two freelancers on my team, two full-time people.
Hmm. And back before when we were talking about how there's a range of different clients, and like you might have
Yeah,
someone really high profile, or you might just have a college kid who's
yes.
looking to change their wardrobe up. Would you send an assistant to deal with those um like lower profile jobs and then you take
No,
care of the higher ones? No, it's all
no.
you?
So I feel like people when they want the service, they still want me in some
Hmm.
capacity. So we did add a component where like you could just do so we could do a consultation on the phone or via Zoom, and then we can have, you know, say like their budget, there's different scales, right? But I prefer like if they want my service, they can have my service with at least the conversation of like what they should look like, me making the board, and shopping and like you can have an assistant pretty much they could be shopping with me that but I would edit and put the looks together. And then some some like perfect example, two college kids that I just did, they don't even live near here. So everything got shipped to them. And then we were on Zoom. And then they would
Hmm.
like ahead of time I gave them a list of what they need to do prior. So they would be like trying on everything to make sure what they loved and fitted. And then we would set up a time frame and then they would just go in front and I would say yes. And I would also teach them like why it works for them, what doesn't. But I think it's better if I'm a part of that service
Hmm.
than an assistant.
So your whole day you're interacting with people, right? It's not the job for the introvert. It's you love being around people and that's part of your job.
Um, I think like I know I used to love being introverted. I used to be called like a social butterfly, but I feel
Hmm.
like that's part of the job. But I feel like it because you're doing that so much that when you're home, like I'm more like a homebody because now it's just kind of like you want that time, that personal time with yourself, the personal time with your family, the personal time just like bonding with your child, with your husband. So
Hmm.
I guess like it's a mix. It depends. Like and also for me, it's like it depends on like the weather. Like if it's summertime, I'm more like out and about. When it's winter, I'm more like we could just stay home and like and just rest and like work. So
Yeah. So what comes next in this field?
usually a lot of stylists, they can become creative directors, meaning like they can go in-house for a company and start creating what the tone of the designer could be, or I could just add components and add being an editor for a magazine while I'm doing this. I could, which I do contribute to different magazines now. For me, I would love to do more commentary on the red carpet. So, you know, be with a channel that like not just interviewing um celebrities on the red carpet, but more kind of like communicating what it takes to put the look together and also
Hmm.
give like conversation more about like the designers they're wearing. I think it's always important that it's like, yes, the actor is wearing this designer, but we always hear more about just like the names of the brands, but not like why these designers were chosen or how they came with that look. Talk
Right.
about the accessories more, the jewelry more. Sometimes it's just kind of like, oh, who are you wearing? And I just mentioned like I'm wearing it, and then I talk about the dress. That's for me the whole look. It's
Hmm.
every part of it is important. So my dream to be more in commentary and also doing an editorial is to give the other designers and like for in different areas like the accessory designers and jewelry and even uh the dresses or wardrobe. It's just to have like more conversation where people can understand why this ensemble was put together the way it was and what are the
Hmm.
trends and like right now like with everything. They just had a huge show in India for Dior. It was kind of like writing about how, you know, a lot of things were talking about how amazing was, but like, I like reading more of the articles that was about like, did they pay them the same amount that they should have? Did they give them actual credit for their craftsmanship? And, because like people just read the mass head. So they say, oh, Dior had a show in India, but what about the designer who created everything? So for me, it's really important to kind of like be more hands on and talk and about everything more in detail, and then come out
Mrs.
with
Hassan.
hopefully some kind of
Hmm.
product.
Mm. What kind of products would those be?
So my goal is right now, like there's a couple things I'm thinking about. For me right now is important to see what I could do for the eco. And I'm trying to see kind of like I do personal shopping. So I also do closet cleanse, which means like we go in people's homes or we tell them how to cleanse out their closet. So I want to go back to basics and just kind of educate people how like you have to build your closet. So I'm trying to come up with some kind of system of like either an app or a PDF that they purchase where they know if they have a good closet. So sometimes you were saying earlier, like, are you the service? Sometimes people don't have time, even college kids, even high school kids don't have time to like talk, but like have it if there was a service that you just purchase where it tells you, do you have these 10 things to build your closet? Like say if you're looking for white button down shirts, what works for this body and silhouette? If you're buying your first suit and what you should what you should buy, and it gives you the price ranges. So something like that. And also just something that helps people look better in their clothing, just kind of like a kit. I don't want to go into too much, so that maybe there's a part two of this where I could tell you all about it, because it's the product world is completely different than the service world. So I'm
Hmm.
also now learning more about licensing and just understanding like trademarks. And I'm actually taking a certificate class at Fordham Law School for their fashion program, just so I can understand more of like the details of patenting and all that kind of stuff for my products, hopefully. So we'll have to have a part two.
Of course, we'll love to have a part two about the product part. You've given us so much valuable information. Thank you. Just to wrap up, you've got the ear of many highly ambitious students. Do you have any final advice for them?
I think it's just really important to go for what you really want to do in your life and try. I think it's very important to see if you could build a community in your home, meaning like mentors, and don't be scared to like find people, even if it's something that you don't know if you really want to do that as your career, but you're kind of intrigued by it. Why not find a mentor in that area, in that arena, and just have coffee with them and reach out to them? Use the resources that are out there in the world, LinkedIn, your community, your parents, friends. Also, build a business plan, internship, even on the weekends if you have a full-time job to get experience. It's so important. And if you love a certain industry, just learn all areas of that industry, because it's always going to be better to know everything than hire everything.
Hmm. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Take care.